Hi, I'm Erin Calvo-Bacci, and with me today is the Reverend Dr. Greg Hopwood. He's our senior pastor at First Parish Congregational Church. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to Wakefield and welcome to First Parish. So what brings you to First Parish in Wakefield?
One of the first things that I noticed about Wakefield and First Parish Church is the warm, welcoming community. I began meeting the leaders of the church and then all the parishioners and the town people, and I have to say, the warmth and the kindness of the community really stands out.
Okay, and then what is your connection to Massachusetts?
Well, I grew up down the road here in Andover, and I've been a Massachusetts person at heart. I love New England, I love the mountains and the ocean and the sport teams. But in the end, I love the fact that here in New England, it's a community that is close and that wants to help your neighbor, wants to build strong communities. I find that at the church, and I find that in Wakefield as well.
Thank you. So would you please share for the audience a bit about your history?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Andover, graduated way back in 1985, and during that time, I really had a transformation in my life. That transformation awakened faith for me. And so as I grew in my personal relationship with the Lord, I also grew in love for the region. So I spent some time in education and training, and both in ministry training, but also professional training. And over time, years down the road, I really felt a call to come back. I really felt a call, both family here, the love of New England, but also just to strengthen the community and to strengthen the church here in New England.
So at which point or at what time in your life did you become a minister?
So that was a process. I've really been in the ministry for about 30 years. Right after I graduated from college, I began working in the inner city, helping youth in Cincinnati. We started a punk, a kind of crazy dance club. It was a non-alcoholic dance club with the skinheaded punk theme back then. We then reached out to the homeless. I started a business where we would hire people. I would drive my car to the homeless shelter and pick up my workers every single day, inner city helping the poor. I then got an MBA specifically in urban economic development. What can we do to help the inner city poor in practical ways? What can we do, not just to give someone a fish, but to teach them how to fish? And to do that in Jesus' name, by the love of God, with the strength of God behind us. So it was really a process and all those steps. After that, I began working at a seminary. I then transitioned to the business world for about 8 years. And so all that process just was building my toolkit. I was always helping in the church, ministering. When I was working in corporate IT, I was actually helping a church start a service and co-preaching back and forth with the head minister there. It was after that time that I became an assistant pastor. I'd moved back here and I worked in Nashua. I was an assistant pastor there for about 10 years. So it's kind of been a step-by-step process. Certainly, I've been growing along the way and just loving people and trying to love God each step.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned you were adding to your toolkit. So within that toolkit, I would believe your time that you spent out of this country, you were in the country of Jordan for some time. Can you tell us more about that experience, the length of time, and when you were over there?
Yeah, you're right, Erin. Certainly, all the experiences that you have, that I have, that we all have, build our toolkit for life, whether we're helping others or building a business. And so it's the same way in the ministry world. And so one of the most profound experiences was I was working as assistant pastor in Nashua, this church that I mentioned, And after about 6 years there, we began getting a growing sense that we wanted to move internationally. Okay. We have 3 kids, and our kids were younger. They weren't babies, but they weren't teenagers yet. They're right in the middle, and we thought, now's the time that they're going to embrace this, that they will enjoy this experience just like we've wanted to. And so we went overseas to the country of Jordan. I was at the tail end of my doctorate, so I wove my dissertation into that process. And we lived there for about 1.5 years. Okay. And what we found there was we found people that are just like here in America. You know, we hear about all the tension between Muslims and Christians and Jewish folks, and certainly that tension is very real. But from a day-to-day perspective, we met and fell in love with so many Muslim friends, so many Jewish friends, and certainly Christian friends too. And so that process just taught us to have a conversation. When there is tension, when there is misunderstanding, have a conversation. Actually get to know the person behind the stereotype.
Which now, using those words, that exact expression, it really is something that's timely with what's going on in the political world, what's going on with our students. Yeah. So how would you relate that experience and bring it back to this community?
Well, what's interesting is here at First Parish, and really Wakefield, New England, if you will, we have a culture that's closely knit, but at the same time is fractured in some ways. We have different groups, different ethnic groups, or we see divisions between the older and the younger. And so at First Parish, we have an amazing group of older seniors who have carried the torch of faith for many, for generations. And they're to be honored, and we're to learn from them, and we're to grow from them. We also have a lot of young families, and that really encourages me. That excites me to meet people like you and your family and your kids, and just the energy and the vision that we have. And then we also have young folks and even teens, and it's been a delight to bring my teens into the church and see how warm all the girls and all the young guys have been to my own family. And so the question is, how can we connect each generation and bring synergy? Just like with the Muslims, Christians, and Jewish folks overseas, my dissertation was on building bridges. Many people don't know, but the Old Testament, the 10 Commandments, if you will, those words are actually revered by all 3 major faiths. Okay. Our Muslim friends actually believe that the first 5 books of the Bible, the 10 Commandments, are part of the holy books. And so I used that as a platform to bring conversation. I developed a youth development curriculum, youth leadership curriculum around those principles. Similarly, I ask myself, where are the touch points that can bring the seniors together, that can bring all the families and the teens together? So I see this as both a great challenge, but a great opportunity for us here.
Well, it's definitely a great opportunity. The church, I love it. When I first came to Wakefield, that was definitely where I wanted to go, because I really wanted to establish a Christian home for my new family. And it always astounded me how beautiful the church is. The church is so connected to the community, but there's still that little bit of disconnect. So it's really interesting and very encouraging to hear you speak about building bridges. So how would you then maybe look at and start with building that bridge into this community, especially with the youth, and how do we get them back there?
Well, I have to tell you, my immediate introduction was, here is this stone church on one of the best corners of Wakefield, on the pond, right by the 5K course. And I count it a great honor and privilege that we have hundreds of people that walk by our front door every day. And so when I did that walk, when I started my runs around the lake, the first thing I saw was the big sign, First for Health. What's the exact name, Erin?
It's First Place for Health.
First Place for Health. And so the fact that our church was trying to connect with the needs of the community. Let's not just start another inner church program, another layer of religion inside the church, which is a good thing. But how about, where does the community need us, or where can we relate to the different needs in the world around us? And so those are things that I hope to see develop and that I want to just encourage. First Place for Health. I love the fact that we have community breakfasts and community lunches and the different things that I've heard over time. I love the fact that we have an aerobics class inside the building. So all these connection points into the community, they build small bridges and let the community know that we're a family. We're part of the fabric of society, and our faith community wants to touch all the community. In discussing the youth, I think it begins with a conversation. I think it begins with spending time and finding out what passions do they have. We just talked to our recent incoming class of youth to say, we look forward to not just asking you to do outreach projects, but having a conversation. When I was in Nashua for about 5 years, I was a principal of the high school. There, the church was leading a Christian high school that serviced about 50 churches in the area. And so we started these outreaches with the teens, and we had the conversation. And so through those conversations, they started this Rafa's Cafe. Friday nights, we would play music. We would, sit down with them. We would have a conversation. It wasn't just typically, I'm going to give you food. You stand over there and I'm going to slap some food. It was sitting beside. It was having that conversation.
The collaboration and really working and connecting.
And relationship.
Okay.
We started a hospice outreach where we had our high school kids trained and certified, and we would go in with hospice. We would do the leaf and the community cleanup and all things like this. So it all came through a conversation of, we believe you're gifted and empowered. What can we do to come alongside and team up in an effective way?
So now the youth program at First Parish Congregational Church, is that also open to other youth in our community who may not belong to the church?
We delight new folks coming in. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday nights when we have our youth group time, kids from several churches from all over the area come. And so yes, we certainly welcome that. And I believe, in all my experiences, I believe that we're enriched from the different paths that we all have. And so even in my own church experience, I love, it's an honor to be part of the congregational faith, and I love the strength of that. I love the fact that there's a sense of membership and belonging, a sense of togetherness. I've grown from many backgrounds in the church, and so my own journey has taken me to different types of churches, and so we certainly welcome that. It's Christ at the center that we love, and we can grow from all different perspectives.
Amen. So you have a family.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us some more about your family?
Sure. My wife and I, we've been together, well, I don't want to reveal how exact old we are, but
Well, you already told us what year you graduated,
so our mathematicians will know quickly, but we've been married for 22 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we have 3 kids. My son, Judson, lives with us here, and he's riding the train into Bunker Hill Community College, and he's been enjoying that. My second son, Kemper, he's a senior in high school, and our daughter is a freshman. She just started here at Wakefield High, and
welcome.
She enjoys it, the volleyball team, and she's really been embraced. She loves the fact that really everybody, the youth have been so warm, all the teens at the high school have been so open, so we're truly enjoying our time here in Wakefield.
That's wonderful. So you have a great foundation, which is a fabulous place to start. Would you elaborate a little more in terms of, or letting people know at home, how important it is having your faith and dealing with the basic day-to-day issues of marriage, children, especially raising children in this day and age?
Well, just since you directed the question right to the audience, I will say for me, what I observe is I see that life is getting more and more stressful. We could see whether on the political scene, with the financial stress that we're all under. I find that my own walk, that my own faith gives me a peace, gives me a depth to weather the storms that we all face. My family, like all, we face struggles. And I find that taking the time to look up to take time to worship, take time to pray, it really gives me the center. It gives me the strength. And I realize that I'm not battling these storms of life alone. My wife is there, my teens, my church friends, but the presence of the Lord, the strength of the Lord, truly is something that fills, something that strengthens us. There's a beautiful verse that I love, that when we ask for wisdom, the Lord gives it to us. And so it's such a gift to have His Word, and just through prayer, it's such a gift to have the wisdom of God to navigate some of the confusing things in life.
That's excellent. So now, outside of the church, what's your favorite thing to do?
Well, if you come on a Sunday or two, you might hear a reference toward hiking, because I really love to be outside. I get refreshed in nature. This summer, I hiked really one of the most beautiful trails in the world, called the John Muir Trail. It's 210 miles. It's like walking from here to New York City, but out in the wild. It starts in Yosemite. It ends on Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the lower 48. And so I really love to just get away into the beautiful, beautiful places here in the world. In New England, I also, for the past 3 years, have been on a blaze to hike all the mountains. So I did the 100 highest mountains here in New England. And so, Aaron, I often have the privilege of going on my day off, which is Monday. So I can often hike those mountains alone. And so just seeing the beauty, just seeing that creation, having a day of just solitude and peace is what I love to do, and really does strengthen me for each week.
That's great to hear that it strengthens you. And then that's so important, having that, I know for myself, being able to have the release, especially with dealing with the day-to-day. But for someone who's not quite equipped to maybe hike what you're able to do, but still get out, how would you recommend staying in the Word of God to keep you going and achieving?
I think that the beauty of today's culture is there's so many different outlets. There are so many different access points to be able to get encouragement and faith. So for example, I love the fact that whether we're an iPhone person, we can have an app and we can listen to the Bible or listen to a message while we're driving to work. Whether it be the Our Daily Bread, which is a one-page devotional that takes about 3 minutes, in the morning. I think wherever we are, our journey, if we just keep taking steps forward, if we just keep touching access points of faith and encouragement, that will give us the strength that we need. For example, here in Wakefield, you'd notice people lapping the lake, and it's wonderful, whether you're running or walking or you're running with the weights or however you do it. Just getting out there is going to make you feel better. It's the same way with God's Word. If it's one verse, if it's, listening to it in the car, just getting that strength, getting that spiritual food will help us day to day.
Well, thank you. You had also mentioned about the First Place for Health that First Parish offers. So for anyone who's not familiar with the First Place for Health, it is living daily a healthy life using Bible-supported, basically support systems. So it's something that it's offered at First Parish Congregational Church, and it's also offered at another church in Wilmington, and it certainly helps with what you're talking about in regards to staying focused, being able to be energized. So what else would you say about that, how it could relate to get more people in the community to be focused on this healthy lifestyle?
Well, just the other day, I went downstairs in the church and I saw the First Place for Health group. And what was wonderful were the relationships. I could feel the energy. I could feel the encouragement and the joy in the room. And so, like many different groups, health groups, it's some of the inputs of truth, of learning, of knowledge, but it's also the group. It's also the strength of the friendship. It's the accountability that helps. And so I think the First Place for Health group combines all these things. It combines friendship and faith with some facts, and so that they can all go deeper, both in a healthy life and in their spiritual life. And what I noticed just the other day is I noticed a few walkers, 2 ladies that I recognized from the church. And they said, yes, we walk this every day, and it started months ago when we did our First Place for Health, many, many months ago. So the fact that the friendships continue and the fact that the health grows deeper and deeper really puts a smile on my face.
Well, that's great. So what else would you envision for the church to do within the community that could be something like a First Place for Health?
Well, I have to tell you, part of the gift of coming into the community is learning about the needs, learning about the people and the background, learning the other things, the other resources that are developed. And so in this time, as I'm new to the community, as I'm getting to know the church and getting to know the different leaders, part of my joy is finding out what's happening and finding out both the resources, and then we'll also find the different needs. And I see over the next 6 to 12 months that we'll develop some new initiatives that will really be pointed. I certainly see some of the recovery stuff that our church and other churches do. I see some of the health initiatives. I see some of the initiatives toward the poor and toward the needy. So these are all great things. I also just went to our music director the other day. I know that we have the Messiah Sing at Christmas time. I said, with the July 4th parade, why don't we do a patriotic sing? Why don't we just have the community open the doors and then come on in, we'll sing together, we'll pray for our nation, no political agenda. I don't like to be political. To me, it's not about which party you're about, it's about let's come together and let's pray for our nation. Let's just agree, God, we need your strength and your wisdom during these times. So I would love to see a sing-along like this. I would like to see the doors of the church opened a bit more. We have a beautiful resource in that building, and people, are intrigued. They know it's a historical landmark. But what about just opening the doors and offering prayer in the mornings, whether you're part of the church or not? Just you want to run around the lake and just come in. Whether you just want to have silent prayer, whether you want to pray with others, maybe a need in the family, a physical need, maybe there's a certain conflict in the home, or maybe there's a certain relationship situation back in your job that's been getting ugly. So for me, I would love to just begin by listening to the community and just opening up the doors a bit wider so that people can come in.
I love hearing that, because that's really, the church is beautiful. Yes, it has beautiful doors, but it's so much more beautiful with those doors open. And so many people do go by that church, and having those doors open and really encouraging people that all are welcomed. It has been amazing for me to see how many of my church family and friends, we've come from so many different places and backgrounds and educational backgrounds as well as religious backgrounds. So really, for all of us to be coming together, we truly are a melting pot in that church, I believe, that's really able to look at everything from so many different directions. And what I've been most impressed with is the talents in the church, from people like Jolynn and what she's able to do and how she's able to market and educate people on the church, yourself coming with such an extensive background, the leaders, the financial people that are within the church. So what else would you see, or how else would you see that we use all those strengths and for those next steps, not just you, but how do we get everyone together working for this common goal?
Yeah, I believe that when we come into church on Sundays, we meet a God who is bigger than just Sunday morning church. We meet a God who actually cares about Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And not only that, but I believe that the gifts we have in the church and in the community are not just greeting people at the door, which is very important, and making coffee, and the typical, gifts that we think of. Choir, very, very gifted people who sing and help us, lift our eyes toward the Lord on Sunday. But I believe we have talented engineers and salespeople, and we have computer, and we have savvy business people, managers, and amazing educators. And so, Aaron, part of my passion is seeing the Lordship of Christ call every part of our lives and every part of our gifting, so that together we can weave that into one to help others, to help the community. Part of my honor, a great privilege, is to be on the board of Agape International. It's an HIV orphanage in India. 250 kids that have been affected by HIV. And it was started by someone right here in Massachusetts. Lynn Vogu, she was raised here. She was working in the investment world. She actually was an investment broker. She went on a 2-week trip, just like a lot of folks do. She went on a short-term trip and met the kids, and she was so moved by her experience. She came home, put everything in storage, packed 2 bags, and she moved to India.
That's impressive.
Now, 12 years later, she started the home, child by child by child, and now it services 250 kids, mostly affected by HIV. About half the kids have HIV. The other half, maybe their parents have passed from HIV, some kind of trauma to the family. But what's beautiful, Aaron, is that the organization is really strengthened by several professionals that are right here in Massachusetts. One's an investment banker, one's a dentist, and it's the merging of all these talents, the merging of these gifts with one passion to help others. And I see that same thing here at First Parish, that the church recognizes that we are gifted and called for a greater purpose. And so I'm really excited to see what initiatives can spring forth. I know that we have great things happening. I just met with the Sturgeons just yesterday. Her husband, a PhD in hydrology, and now he wants to go back to Africa. And so seeing some of these amazingly gifted people, when we offer these things up to the Lord, He can open doors and He can do an amazing orchestration that brings us all together to help others.
Well, we have to speed it up, I guess. We're getting the sign. So, quickly, you've mentioned what you like to do outside of the church. What is your favorite sport and sports team?
Well, I have to tell you, I love the Patriots. I love football, and it's probably no secret that I am a Patriots fan at heart.
Okay. What's your favorite music?
So that's a hard one. I love all sorts of music, but I'd have to say my favorite music is when I'm holding a guitar and just worshiping to our God above.
Favorite date night with your wife?
My wife and I love to walk the lake, go out to eat some kind of ethnic food, and then maybe watch some kind of movie or some kind of documentary that is fascinating.
What was your favorite movie for 2016?
My favorite movie in 2016, you have me there. But my favorite movie of all time is called The Mission with Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. It's a documentary about South America.
Okay. Well, that just about does it for us.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to
you.
speak with us, Pastor Greg, and this has been so enlightening for myself, too. So, again, welcome to First Parish and welcome to Wakefield. And for everyone, if you haven't been to First Parish Congregational Church, please come on Sundays. We have service at 9 and 10:30, and you'll get to meet Pastor Greg personally. Thank you so much.